That's the idea. Let me see now if I can handle professionally Zoom and not share my favorite porno pages by accident. So do you see my screen now?
Yes, exactly. Now it's perfect.
Wonderful. Team management in a crisis. Thanks so much, Jana. It's really a pleasure to see you guys. Jana has courageously given me 30 minutes. I will try to use them smartly, and then we will have hopefully time for questions and answers. In the meantime, you can also write your questions, comments, harsh criticisms in the chat, which is typical for any Zoom. Few words about me, like 25 minutes. My name is Peter. Just as Jana said, I am by nationality, I am Finnish. By origin, I am Bulgarian. By residence, I am Estonian. By professorship, I am Swedish, but with a Latvian flavor, as I am a professor in management at the Stockholm School of Economics in Latvia. And I also speak Russian. As you can see, this is the language of my daughter, and this is a portrait of me. All right. Speaking of teams, perhaps the best thing we have at the moment comes from Google. Google has invested some insane amount of time and efforts to figure out what means to be a high-performing team. And they came to these 5 key factors. And the first one is psychological safety, incredibly important, especially in times of crisis. Psychological safety, actually, can I be myself when I work with you, or I need to pretend? Do I feel safe that I can ask even a stupid question without the danger that I will be immediately laughed out or criticized and so on? The second is structure and clarity. What is that exactly I need to do? What is my role? What is the plan that I have to do? What are the goals that I do? The third one is dependability, the very fact that we depend on one another, that we can trust that each and one of us is pushing hard and delivering 100% performance. Then we go to meaning. Do we do anything kind of meaningful? And finally, the team impact, like that. What is the impact of my work? Who is actually living better because of what I do? For this, we have to thank Google. And then I go to this, what we call a spider. And I really recommend that with or without crisis, you can do a small exercise with your teams. Jana told me that I speak at the moment to most of you. You are team leaders. So you can actually print out this for each and one of your team members and make them fill it anonymously, just to rate your team performance according to those, I think there are about 11 criteria, where 5 is the maximum and 0 or 1 will be the ultimate disaster. And then you calculate the average for your team based on their answers, and then you can have a friendly discussion, like what are the development areas, what can be improved, how can you improve it, and so on. I particularly invite you to pay more attention to clear mission, clear targets, and work planning. I think that these are the critical issues, definitely. But also pay attention to leadership, because leadership is actually where they speak about you, about your ability to be a team leader and to perform as a leader. And now suddenly, all our beautiful teams, our plans, our strategies, how we will get incredibly rich and end up on the front page of Business Week. Suddenly we are all in the big bang of a corona crisis. We are all grounded at home, and we try hard to look nice even in the absence of hairdressers, right? So basically, from now on, I would like to switch your attention to what is actually expected from team leaders. What is the team leaders need to do in times of crisis? As just as Jana said, to keep their teams united and to make them operate smoothly. And this goes like I borrow from a book that I really recommend you read. The book is called Captain's Class, and they investigate the best ever sport teams. What was kind of typical for their captains, okay? What is that we can learn from how the captains of these all-time best sporting teams they have operated? And the first thing you can get in this book is how important it is from a team leader to be persistent and relentless. You know, that you never ever give up, basically, that no obstacle is big enough for you. And as you will notice, I can promise you that in the next months, finding money will become more difficult because everybody is nervous. So finding funding will become more challenging. But from the captain of a team, from the team leader, we expect not immediately to give up, but relentlessly to try again, without emotions, without kind of a, I give up, that's too difficult to handle. And that is pretty much expected from a team captain, not only in times of crisis, but particularly in times of crisis. It's very, very important because everybody is down. Okay, everybody is nervous because of the uncertainty, because we don't know what is going to happen and how things are going to move forward. All right. And then, speaking of the same, it's very important for any team leader, and basically for any leader, not only of teams, like that. Maybe you have run in your life, but you have people who are like having growth mindset and people who have a fixed mindset. And people with a fixed mindset, they almost never believe that they can be better in anything. Okay, they are easily frustrated with pretty much anything that doesn't work immediately. While people with growth mindset, they are actually intrigued, they are interested by things which are difficult to handle. That only raises their curiosity and raises their competitive spirit, and they say, okay, let's see, like if I cannot do it from the right, maybe I try from the left, and so on. And that is incredibly important quality from leaders in any time, but especially in times of crisis. Because in times of crisis, most of us, we are paralyzed with fear. We are paralyzed with the belief, I would say, the wrong belief that we cannot really make it, that it's the challenges are too big, the hardships are too heavy. I am who I am, I cannot change. We have this business project and we cannot change it now. It's too late for this or too late for that. While actually from leaders, we expect to have the so-called growth mindset, where challenges are stimulating and not paralyzing, okay? And the second thing, which is very, very important in times of crisis from any team leader, is the winning spirit, okay? The winning spirit, that we are in the game to win. We are not in the game to complain relentlessly to anyone willing to listen how difficult it is to find funding, and how difficult it is to do the prototype, and how difficult it is to find this or find that, and that Mars and Jupiter, they are in the wrong angle. No, we are in the game to win. Everybody in the team is looking at us, and they try to see, do we have the high energy of a winner? Are we really pushing to the limits? Or are we kind of already calling the shots, say, okay, let's go it off, it doesn't work, and so on, and I give up. And then the third thing in a team in crisis, you really need as team leaders to be able to be willing, not able, but to be willing to do the thankless job, okay? And there is a lot of, pardon my French, but there is a lot of shit to be eaten in times of crisis. You need to speak to customers that you will not be able to serve. You will need to speak to banks if you are already in business, that you cannot serve your debts and this and that. And these are all things that you do not delegate to your team members. These are things that you are ready to do yourself, because they are grossly unpleasant. Very often they are non-motivational and so on, but they are enormously important and helpful to the team. And in reality, there are very few team leaders who are ready to do that. Most team leaders, they want to take the central stage, to look glossy, like stars, to look like champions. Everybody adores them. Everybody is writing down every single word they have to say. But leadership, team leadership in general, and especially leadership in times of crisis, is not about you being the star. It's about actually you being the servant of others, helping your team by taking all those shitty, nitty gritty parts that maybe nobody wants to do at this particular moment. And then in those teams, in a successful teams, generally, the communication is very low key, very practical, and very democratic. What does that mean? That means like that nobody speaks with some mysterious managerial or technological slang because that's their way to pretend they are super smart. That everybody speaks with a simple and more importantly a friendly voice and language. Okay, and also there are many kind of leadership trainers who will say, and I completely agree with this opinion, that you should be usually the last to speak in the room. So just make sure that everybody is heard, okay? That everybody had an opportunity to share their grievances, their concerns, and to be able to explain what is that they think, what is that they are afraid of, what is that they are concerned about, what is the ideas that they have, and not just take the microphone and dominate the room because you are the team leader and you are now in times of crisis and you need to be incredibly decisive and shoot orders, opinions, and so on. And that is particularly very, very important. And then, especially in these Zoom times, I think it is really very, very important to build such a team unity that even through the lens of a Zoom camera on computer, you should be able to understand each other without too much of a language, okay? Just with the body language, just when you look at one another, just when you have your own rituals. And that is what unites people, you know, that is that we have, like, we are all humans and we have this feeling of belonging, that we want to belong together, we want to belong to a group. And more often than not, we don't really need to speak in order to build this sense of belonging. It can be really non-verbal. And that is also your role. It's like constantly to encourage people whenever it is, with a smile, with a look, with a body gesture. But anything goes that encourages the team to build self-confidence and sense of unity, right? And then there is a video, but I will skip it. And then we go to the sixth, that you should speak up and you should be ready to to fight for what you stand for. And what does that mean? It's like that in times of crisis, there are many unpleasant truths, I believe. There are many unpleasant truths that most likely the original plan will not work. Most likely many things will be delayed. Most likely the prototype we dreamed of will be only a shadow of itself because of a limited funding. And these are all things that you need to speak aloud, okay? That is what leadership is all about. Not to join the group, but just to be different in a sense that you're more vocal about things people are afraid to say aloud. And that is what in reality means to stand up for your convictions. And again, sometimes you will be blasted by your funders, by your partners, by your business partners, by your suppliers. But if you believe in something, as a team leader in those times, you should really be able to fight for it and think maybe a little bit less what are the possible consequences. Again, I repeat, only when and if you really believe in that and you're ready to fight for it. All right. And then we go to perhaps my favorite part of a team leader in times of crisis. You need to have really a total control over your emotions, because all the team members, they are looking at you. They are all kind of thinking like that, how deep is the shit we are in, or how thick are the clouds? Are we ever going to make it to the promised land, or we will all die? And most likely many of us leaders, we are also humans and we have exactly the same feelings like that. Are we going to die or not? Shall we be a success or it will be an utter failure, and so on? But all these emotions you need in a way to keep to yourself. You need all the time to exhibit the style of a positive, dynamic, upbeat fellow that everything is more or less going according to the plan that you have built together with your team and so on. And that is a very, very fine skill that you should try to develop in yourself, this kind of a total emotional control. But total emotional control is not only to hide your emotions, but total emotional control is to be ready to display, to show the right type of emotions at the right time to the right people. And I want to share with you a story about emotions, confidence, and success. And this story comes from the world of hockey. You know most likely that in Finland we are really keen on hockey. And maybe not everybody knows that in Finland our usual dream and target is to beat Sweden. That's kind of a number one. Winning the world championship is perhaps secondary. And the story goes like that I think it was in 2003, Finland was leading in the finals. Pay attention, in the finals we were playing against Sweden and we were winning 5-1. I remember very clearly that time I already put champagne in the fridge thinking that it's obvious what's going to happen. It was in the second period. But then in the third period, finally, the results were like that Sweden won 6-5. 6-5. We were all devastated in Finland. How can it be that you can lead 5-1 and then a crisis happens and the next thing you know, you are down 6-5, you don't become a world championship and you don't become one by the hands of your arch enemy, Sweden. But then Finns are a very organized and practical people, and they have done a thorough investigation and examination. So what has led to this meltdown? How can it be that everything is going fine and suddenly you are completely destroyed? And they came to two conclusions. And the first is that Swedes, they have an extreme control of their emotions, even in times of crisis. As you can imagine, 5-1 is not the time you celebrate your massive victory, it's a time of crisis. But even in a time of crisis, all their body language, all their faces, they just illustrate that that was exactly the plan. That first we go down 5-1 and then we beat you. And when you look at them, you slowly but surely become nervous yourself because you can't understand how can you be in such a deep shit and still not be kind of a scared or melting down or going away with the was. And then in Finland, we investigated very thoroughly. So what is in the training of Swedish hockey players that makes them with this complete control over their emotions? And we have noticed that since childhood, they were trained in a positive spirit, in a positive spirit. What does that mean? It's like when a Swedish boy is shooting at the goal and he is like 3 meters off the goal, his coach or father will shout, "Bravo, Magnus, bravo, well done, what a strength. Next time just try a little bit to the left and it will be in." While Finnish hockey players, and I must tell you also Estonia, Latvia, Eastern Europe, those kids, if you miss the goal, you hear your coach or your father will shout at you like, what have you done, you fucker? You missed again, you always miss. And when those people meet kind of 10 years later, basically everybody hears in their head, the Swedes are hearing that you make it, don't worry, just a little bit to the left. While the Finnish guy is listening like that, you fuck up again, you always fuck. And that is a very, very big lesson for all of us who are team leaders, that in times of crisis, we need to cheer up people. We need, as in Google Teams, to give them a concrete plan. What do we do differently? But we need at the same time to cheer them up, to notice good performance. And that is what keeps people, united. On a higher level, at Hanken and SSE, where I work in Helsinki, we have developed a very nice instrument, which is called the High-Performing Team Index. But this is maybe for when you grow as a business and as a company, when you grow to a little bit a different level. So we decided that we need actually a separate instrument that will assess how well are performing teams. And we came to these 4 elements. 2 of them are related to we as a team. The first of them is culture and spirit. Do we have the purpose? Do we have the vision? What is that we are fighting for? Do we have a certain team culture? And do we have also the spirit? Do we enjoy being together? But for a high-performing team, it's not enough to have the culture and the spirit. We can go to a restaurant and have a fantastic culture and spirit. You need also to have the organization and effectiveness as a team. Or to put it in a more brutal language like that, do we get shit done? Or we only hug one another and claim to be fantastic winners, but don't do really very much. And these are the 2 elements of the we part, we as a team. But then you have the me part, where you can investigate with the help of this index like that, the personal fit. So how well do you fit within the team? Is that your place? Because let's face it, very often there are really winning teams, there are really good teams, but you don't feel you belong there, okay? You don't feel like that it gives you joy and you're pushing really to the tune of 100%, because for many different reasons. All right, let's not go in that. And finally, the index is investigating what can be the growth area, what can each team member does to be better. And this is a mixture of assessment and advice by his team colleagues, that let's say Peter is part of a team. What can I do better according to my colleagues to be an even better team member? And that is in a nutshell what I wanted to share with you in the course of this half an hour. But I certainly hope it gives enough information and enough value, and it makes you kind of a little bit think about it. And now I'll be more than happy to answer any questions if you have some.
So guys, questions? Peter, maybe I will ask. How do you suggest, like, what is your suggestion about, you know, you have talked about the leader is the person with like so-called poker face and always stable, and so you need to take care of yourself to be alive and to really be helpful for your team. But how you can like put it together with, for example, such kind of understanding that leaders should, like captains should leave the drawing ship the last one, and leaders eat the dinner the last, and so on. So how you can balance between the interests of your team and your own interest to feed yourself to be alive?
Yeah, I think that, thank you. I think it's a good question. Each of us, we have a survival instinct, right? Like that each of us, nobody wants to be a walking failure. Nobody wants to hear that, oh, Peter was a team captain, he was a real disaster, he got us all killed, and so on. But that is, if you ask me, like, that's the difference between being a leader and not being a leader. That when you are a leader, first of all, I think you think most of all about the others and not about yourself. Your personal destiny is not really on the top of your priorities. You are much more concerned with the mission, with the team members, with the team, and so on. So that what happens with you is somehow secondary in your mind. And the second is that I think that you are, as a good leader, on my watch, I don't think that you should be afraid of failure. That failure is just part of life. You remember Winston Churchill, that success is going from one failure to another without losing your mood. So same here. I think that that is how you keep the balance, by not being terribly concerned with your own destiny, away from your survival instinct, and by not being impressed with a failure as far as you think it's temporary.
Thank you. Guys, you will be under the pressure because you are making the startup, which is absolutely not predictable. And your team is working for you for free. This is like, I love it the most, when the founders can really put people to work for the idea, like basically for them for free.
Mm.
So this loyalty is really like very high.
I think, but now maybe we are a little bit departing from the teams in crisis. But I think that I'm at the moment participating in 2 startups myself. I think in any startup, like it's incredibly important to run as quickly as possible to any cash, to any cash. I mean that, that even if Yana is my customer, and even if Yana gives me €7, maybe €7 is not the end of my dreams, but still it means that somebody has paid me €7. And that keeps the entire team morale very high, because before the €7, we are a group of enthusiasts who are constantly kind of trying, speaking, talking, prototyping, sitting in cafeterias, and taking only milk without coffee because we don't have time, we don't have money for the coffee. But the moment somebody gives you €7, this is crucial for the morale of the team, because it means that, look at that, somebody actually is willing to pay €7 for what we do. And that is my advice, actually, because that's also my experience, like that before the €7, we are all a little bit nervous. Even if we are best friends, even if we are really smart people, but we are still kind of investing time, effort, and everybody is thinking that does it work or not. And when you see the €7, you start thinking, I told you, people give money for this.
Yeah, and but at the same time, when the first money arrives, the team really like should turn from the enthusiasts into real workers, because then you need to decide from this €7 who will get the coffee and who will get the more work, and how we like turn the €7 into some next sum of the money we could acquire from our customers.
I absolutely agree, because the moment you get the €7, this becomes a business, because this is an idea of enthusiasts and so on. The moment you get the €7, that becomes a business, and now you start thinking, can I get 100,000 people to give me €7? You're right.
Yes, and that's why, guys, when you will win the money from Prototron, I will really like look forward to get and to see your shareholders agreement, because this means that you know what you will gonna do with this €7. As I mentioned before, the biggest point why startups fail is because of the conflicts inside of the team. It's like it beats absolutely everything. When the team cannot agree with each other, then they go away. And as engineers, I know that every one of you is you're really like loved, to work in the laboratory to assemble the robots, and you are so, yeah, robot is coming, robot is like interacting with us. But then by the end of the day, you will end up with the shareholders agreement with 10 founders, and of course it's absolutely impossible to share the €7 or even 1 million or 7 million, whatever. So think really, really very hard before you like start doing it in a business way.
I must share from experience that unfortunately for many people, for creative people, for engineers, these are not usually things you think about, because you're not excited about the money and the shareholder agreement. You're excited about the robot you will build, the painting you will paint, and so on. but trust me, from experience, I have seen, just as Yana said, I have seen a lot of businesses who utterly fail, and also best friends who turn into best enemies, only because they fail to discuss beforehand, when the €7 come, how do we share them?
Mm-hmm.
Or when this becomes a business which is not €7 but €7 million, how do we make decisions? What part of the profits we will distribute as dividends so I can buy myself a new Jaguar, and what part of the profits we will reinvest so that we build another Google? And very often I've noticed, especially in Estonia and in Latvia, that when I'm invited to discuss kind of a new venture, people find me extremely mercantilistic, extremely kind of a business oriented, because I very quickly want to know what will be actually expected from me and what is that I get in return. And then people start thinking at what kind of a business shark is that, that he's immediately thinking, what do I get? What do I get? But that is only normal, because just as I said, without the shareholder, without this agreement, later it may appear that we have very different understanding what we do with the 7 million.
Yes, and you know, this is also the real and very sad story when you haven't agreed among yourself, when really like it's very often also like there is no like a certain leader. When you are just friends, you just want to be together, you just want to decide everything together. But when you are a business, there should be one head, like one head who is eating the shit and who is responsible for everything. And you just agree that there is one channel, and no like that, oh, I don't know, it was Peter. Oh, I don't know, Yana has been done something. So no, it doesn't work like this. It will like put your customers into like, what are they do they understand what are they doing there? And it's really because it seems like it's your internal business, like how you communicate among you, but it's so visible. It becomes, I don't know what, maybe Peter can answer what is this what is behind, but it's really very visible when there is not everything okay inside the company.
No, I just wanted to share, like, Jan, if you allow me, that I just wanted to share with you. I think that when you fuck up in business, you should be very open about that. That I have been, for instance, once in a company where I made the big mistake to agree that we will be 50-50. We were both very intelligent people, both very smart people, both kind of very enthusiastic about the whole thing. I was 15 years younger than now. I didn't think that I'm doing some capital mistake. I thought that it's only honest. And then, you know, when you are in a 50-50, the only thing that saved us is that we were both very intelligent people trying to avoid conflict. But it very quickly became obviously clear that if I say I want to go to the right and the other person says, no, we go to the left, we basically don't go anywhere. Because neither I can convince the other guy or the other way around. And then we spent like that 2 years in a very, in chess, this is called pat situation, where like we've done nothing, and then kind of with poorly disguised smiles, we agreed that we will both exit the business at the same time. So this is also my advice to all of you, like that when you know that before the €7, it's so tempting to say that, yeah, of course, we are like childhood friends. We will do this together. Like, let's go to 50-50. But later this becomes next to mission impossible.
Yeah. So while you're friends, while you, I don't know, whatever your brothers, just make it clear, because then the rules are clear and the responsibility is clear. And I can also share a lot of and fortunately not a lot of, but some ideas how you just choose the co-founder wrongly, and it's like from the beginning it's the way to the hell, and it's unfortunately very often the end of the startup or the end of the company.
Yep. Exactly.
So all the crises can be overcome in a good team with a just strong leader who take the leadership position, not as the opportunity to buy Jaguar or Lamborghini. I'm just
that comes later.
this week with this one, I dream only about Lamborghini. But
so guys, can you share with us like what are your challenges in the team?
Yeah, one another challenge is when there are delays in project, and those delays are bottleneck because of some part of team. Yeah, as they did mistakes or something new came up. So how to survive this situation when other part of team sitting and waiting, pressing goes to these few people who bottleneck and money are ending. Classic.
No, I think like that there are not two equal situations, but that is why if you remember like the Google Teams framework, like that we should be really able to depend on one another. And I always tell I'm a board member in a company, and I always tell like that if you think that you will not be in time, it's fine, it's a part of life, but I just need to get an early warning, okay? Mm-hmm. If the deadline is on Friday, I don't need to know on Friday that you didn't make it. I need to know 2 months before that most likely you will not make it in time, because that gives you time to think of additional resources, to check if anyone in the team can help and so on. And I think very often this is actually a communication problem. Mm-hmm. That the bottleneck part of the team, instead of raising a red flag early in the air that Houston, we will most likely not do it in time, they just don't share this with anyone, especially with the team leader. And then you just face the reality that look at it now, we are running out of time and out of money, and a key part of the project is not being done. So I think that the big lesson here is that everybody in the team should be encouraged immediately to report if they think that they will not be able to do something in time.
So yeah, I was today preparing one post for you guys, and I put as a first tip, especially for the situation of crisis, over communicate. It's better, sometimes it's better to over communicate for everyone to know and to take into consideration some kind of delays, lack of money, not working technology, whatever. And if you cannot make a right time one page or landing page, whatever, just give us know. So
challenges, questions, anyone? I see 24 people. Hopefully not everybody is as introverted as me and Diana.
I suppose, they already started to overthink about how they're managing their companies and the teams. And I really hope everyone is already drafting the shareholders agreements. And it's already 23.
Yeah, it could be. Then on my part, I just want to say big thanks and to wish you all good luck. I think that I always used to say that I am a professor in a business school, but I think that at this stage of your entrepreneurial life, you should stay as far as possible from business schools. I have a very successful Finnish friend, an entrepreneur, and he said he left the business school after being there for 2 years. And his words, like he's a millionaire by now. And his words like that, in business schools, they scare the shit out of you by telling you how many things can go wrong. And by the time you graduate, you realize that I better do nothing. So I think at this stage, I only wish you that you really stay cool, stay devoted, and stay focused to your startup ideas.
We have one question. It's Estonians and Latvians, they don't ask questions. It's even much better than, before Zoom time. So we have another question. Is there some resource with good samples of official, it's for me, I will share with you, official shareholders agreements, or is some writing on a napkin enough? Peter, what is your
Yeah,
experience?
well, to tell you honestly, to tell you honestly, because of some age differences, by this time of my life and career, I have a lawyer. So I don't look for. But I'm sure that you will find plenty of sources where you can get the basic template. And then, if you ask me, just make sure that in this basic template, in a plain language, you write what you think is important for you. Okay. Don't pay attention to the legal language and no, just like take a basic template from this, find some, and then make sure that it says exactly what you wanted to see in this agreement.
Yeah, guys, no worries. I will share. We have also have very simple shareholders agreement template in Prototron, so we can share it. And there is a lot of templates which were developed by the lawyers in Estonia, by Startup Estonia lawyers. So
yeah, there is already a link.
Yeah,
that's what I love.
Yes,
Together
thank
we
you very
can.
much, Peter. So guys,
Thank you, everybody. Please find me on any social media in almost any language.